Welcome to Americana Archives. Today's headline is Friend More Than Gold. The subheadline says, How a Klondike Miner Cared for His Sick Comrade. This article originally came from the Seattle, Washington Post-Intelligencer. It says, At Providence Hospital, John Anderson lies dying. Over his emaciated and unconscious form, bends a friend who has shown more faithfulness than is seen every day. At the close of the cynical and selfish 19th century, people are apt to read the story of Damon and Pythias, of David and Jonathan, then smile incredulously and say such things may have been in ages gone by, but not now. Such skeptics should step into the little room on the second floor of the hospital and hear the life story of the two men, William Sim and John Anderson. Both are natives of Scotland, Sim having been born at Elgin and Anderson on his father's little farm 4 miles out from Elgin. The two learned the carpenter's trade together, serving as apprentices in the same shop. 11 years ago, Sim came to America, locating in Chicago. A year later, Anderson followed him. He spent his first year in St. Paul, whence he came to Chicago and joined his friend. The comrades came together to Seattle, where they arrived about 2 weeks after the Great Fire. Then things boomed. There was plenty of building going on, and the carpenter's trade was a good one to follow. But the years rolled on and business grew dull, and times grew hard. 2 years ago last March, there came quietly into Seattle the news that there were some wonderful gold finds being made in Alaska. Sim and Anderson heard the name of Birch Creek, near Circle City, mentioned with special favor by some of their friends, and they determined to go thither and try their fortunes. Leaving Seattle, they made their way as far as 40 Mile. In that neighborhood, they prospected in various directions, but met with no success, until a year ago last spring, when on last chance, about 10 miles from 40 Mile, they struck pay dirt. Patiently, they toiled on till summer, and while they worked, they averaged $20 a day. They got a good quantity of coarse gold. Among their trophies from this field, they have 2 nuggets of good size, one valued at $68 and the other at $32. Mr. Sims states that they picked out a number worth $20 each. Last fall, the Klondike excitement arose. There was a stampede. The friends resolved to go. They got to the new field too late to locate, but in connection with 2 of their companions, Foote and Thomas, they bought a claim, number 43, below Discovery on Bonanza, for which they paid the very reasonable sum of $500. Mr. Sims says that at the time, almost any claim on either Bonanza or El Dorado could have been bought for that price. The claim we bought, said Mr. Sim to a Post-Intelligencer reporter, proved a fairly good one. The dirt we took out averaged from 15 cents to 50 cents a pan. Of course, we cannot tell precisely what there is in the claim, but I am safe in saying that so far as from being exhausted, it has not yet been thoroughly developed. While we were still working on this claim, 2 of us, Foote and I, took away on a claim on El Dorado, that is to say we worked it on shares. Anderson and Thomas remained on the claim of Bonanza, though Anderson even then was far from well, and not able to do much work. In fact, from about the 1st of April, Anderson was in bed. We didn't know then what we know now, that he had Bright's disease, and was a doomed man. We did all we could to minister to his comfort. In May, we had Dr. Chambers from Circle City. Then we sent down to Dawson and got a house. It was a tedious undertaking. We mounted Anderson on the horse, and one of us walked on each side, all the way to steady him. Thus we reached Dawson with the invalid. His one wish during his sickness had been to get back to old Scotland again and see his parents. When I promised to take him back, he broke down and cried. The doctors at Dawson City told me his case was absolutely hopeless, and that I would never get as far as St. Michael's with him. I simply told them I would take the chances. We left Dawson City on June 19th on the PB Ware. Anderson was then getting worse, but was still conscious. His strongest wish at this time seemed to be that he might be able to reach Seattle. He believed that if he could once reach this city, he would be able to rally enough to get back home again. At 40 Mile, the surgeon of the mounted police came to see Anderson, and his diagnosis was fully as unfavorable as that of the other physicians had been. At St. Michael's again, we had Dr. Chase. He was just as positive that the poor man could not last long. Still, he stood the voyage down remarkably well. He even grew a little stronger after we had left St. Michael's, and did very well indeed until about 3 days before we reached Seattle. We left St. Michael's on July 3rd, and reached here 2 weeks later on the first trip of the Portland. I turned Anderson's case over to Dr. Witherspoon, and we brought him up to the hospital. You see his condition now. He lies in a stupor, from which he now and then rouses sufficiently to recognize me or some other old friend at his bedside. Sometimes, half incoherently, imagining himself back at the mines again, he calls to me, "Bill, Bill, take me home," in tones pathetic enough to melt one's heart. Again, when I urge him to get stronger so that we may be able to reach home, he says despondently, "Bill, Bill, I'll never get home again." Thus Anderson lingers at the point of death. His physician thinks he may survive a few days or a few weeks, but not longer. Still, his friend stays by his bedside, watching for every symptom of pain and bending eagerly above him to relieve every want. He left his work, which was paying him handsomely, with the sole hope that he might be able to carry his friend back to die with the old folks on the little farm near Elgin. All the financial affairs of the four partners have been carefully arranged, so that in case of Anderson's death, his parents will receive his full partnership share of all the proceeds of the claims. Anderson is 33 years old and unmarried. Up to the time of this sickness, he was a robust man and always did his full quota of work. Mr. Sim is careful to give out no statement about the amount of gold thus far taken out of their claims, but friends say that Anderson had with him $12,000 and Sim $17,000. This story came from the great state of Indiana, being reported in the Sunday Journal of September 12, 1897. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to continue to uncover all of America's lost and forgotten history, then remember before you leave to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember to like and comment below. And we will see you next time on Americana Archives.